Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Ted sent me notes and Steve, checked this story out. We've talked about this before. You're walking along one day and you see the police talking to somebody. You pull out your phone and you start filming it. Okay? Police officer walks over and goes, "You're not allowed to film me." Well, we've talked before about the general concept of you are allowed to film a police officer who's in public doing his job. Obviously, you can't go break into someone's home or sneak in behind the cops when they're executing a search warrant, and while inside the house, film them while you're standing on someone else's property. That might be, trespassing. But the idea that you are going to simply film somebody who's in public, you're allowed to do that. Some states, however, said, well, you can do it, but you got to step back. You can't walk right up to the person and film. And sometimes they say you got to stand 10, 15, 20, or 25 feet back. Indiana's got a law that says 25 feet. Now, I know some people who say, Steve, they should be allowed to film no matter where they stand. Well, you got to understand that there is the possibility of someone filming interfering with the investigation. I'm not saying they do it all the time. I'm just going to give you a hypothetical. Police officer pulls somebody over for suspected drunk driving. They get out of the car, they're talking to the person, and they're going through the instructions for how to figure out if the person's sober or not. Person filming decides to step between the officer and the person being spoken to, and is sticking the camera in the face of the police officer going, "Keep talking, I'm just filming you." Well, obviously, that's an absurd example, but I'm giving you an example to show you that there could be interference by the person who's filming. So what if the person standing right here? Would that be a problem? Well, if the police officer is trying to give instructions to somebody and they keep looking over to see what this person is doing here because they don't know them, and there's a person standing here filming them while they're being questioned about drunk driving, that might distract them, okay? And I'm not even saying that's wrong. I'm just pointing that out. So Indiana and other states have passed laws about how far you have to be back if you're going to film police officers on the job. So in Indiana, it's 25 feet. And a woman was just arrested for this. According to Fox59.com, Joe Schroeder wrote the story. Indy woman arrested under Indiana's new 25-foot police encroachment law. A Marion County woman was arrested in Lawrence this week and charged with standing within 25 feet of a police investigation, which is illegal under a new Indiana law. Now, notice there it says within 25 feet of a police investigation. Well, how far out does the investigation extend? Only real way that this makes sense is you measure it from the police officer. Because I can see a police officer. I can't see where his investigation is. Court documents show that a woman from Indianapolis was arrested in Lawrence and preliminarily booked for obstruction by encroaching on an investigation, among other charges. She had several other charges. Unlawful encroachment on an investigation is a law passed by Indiana legislators earlier this year that gives police a 25-foot buffer zone to perform their duties. Under the law, which was passed over the summer, a person can be arrested if they move toward police after law enforcement has ordered them to stop approaching. So you're standing out there filming a police officer. And by the way, notice it doesn't say you have to be filming them. You're just standing within 25 feet after you've been told not to. So if you're just standing there filming them, the cop walks over and goes, "You're under arrest." Well, he's skipped a step. He's got to tell you, no, you've got to step back. If you step back, you're good under the law. So now it appears that local police are beginning to enforce the law. A report filed by Lawrence Police on Monday shows that officers were called around 3 o'clock to a place on Franklin Road for an investigation. According to the report, during the investigation, officers arrested a woman who was subsequently booked into jail on following charges such as escape, resisting law enforcement, and obstruction, encroaching on an investigation. According to the police narrative written into the report, the woman was seen recording officers on her phone while they were serving an arrest warrant at a local gas station. While the woman was initially more than 25 feet away and thus complying with the law, police said she eventually got closer. Once the suspect being arrested on the warrant was loaded into an ambulance for treatment, the police said the woman got within 1 foot of the ambulance and continued to record. Officers explained that the woman was violating the encroachment law, but she verbally disagreed, saying, "This is an ambulance, not your police car." And so it sounds like both sides misunderstood the law, because it doesn't matter how close she gets to an ambulance. It matters how close she gets to the police investigation, which apparently involved area involving the ambulance. But the real key, I would assume, is where the police officer is. So if a police officer says to her, "Hey, you got to move, you're too close to me," and she goes, "Well, this is an ambulance," Doesn't matter. I don't think the law addresses nearby vehicles. It addresses the police investigation, presumably being conducted by the police. The woman was then told to turn around and was subsequently handcuffed. She later reportedly was able to free one of her hands from her cuffs, according to officers, but then was lawfully detained again. Now, the passage of this law was not universally praised in Indiana. Less than 2 months after the bill was approved, the ACLU of Indiana filed a lawsuit claiming that the new law prevents law enforcement from being held accountable for what they do. The law, which went into effect on July 1st, was called a violation of constitutional rights by the ACLU, which claimed that citizens have a right to observe and record the police. And yes, they absolutely do. The question is, again, how close can they get when doing so? So again, the state says, well, 25 feet. I don't know if that's reasonable or not. Because if I'm a police officer and I'm paranoid and it's night out and I see someone at the edge of my vision over here filming me, if they're 25 feet away, pretty far away, and if I can see what they're doing, that's I don't think it'll bother me, 25 feet. 15 feet? I don't think that would bother me either. 10 feet? And like I said, my biggest concern if I was law enforcement, and again, I try to think of these things from all sides, is that if a person is filming what's happening, I'm worried if I'm a good cop. I'm not worried they're going to see what I do. I'm standing in public. People are going to see what I do. But I'm worried that them filming it is going to affect what's happening. So in other words, I'm talking to somebody and they're speaking freely to me until they realize there's someone over here with a camera I don't know. Now you're going to say, Steve, but you're wearing a body camera. Yeah, of course I am. I'm a cop in that scenario. But the person over here, we don't know who they are. And so someone might go, wait, I'm going to wind up on some person's YouTube channel. For all I know, they're to make fun of me and put it to the Benny Hill music. I don't know. And that might interfere. But the bigger concern I have is, like I said, with the drunk driving example. I'm trying to explain to a motorist that I'm going to count backwards from 72 to 61. I need you to do that while standing on your left leg. Meanwhile, they're distracted because somebody's over here, and it's like, what were the numbers again, and which leg? And so you can't have that person interfere. And so 25 feet, like any other number, is pretty random. I don't know they got that number from anywhere in particular. But is that the distance? Because if you said, Steve, no, you cannot have this law at all. Well, like I said before, come over here and stand between the officer and the person they're trying to interview. And I know some people will say, Steve, that's crazy. I've seen videos shot before where the police pull someone over, they're talking at the side of the road, and a total stranger to these people comes over and starts interfering, speaking to the person being arrested, speaking to the police officer. I've actually seen that. I'm not saying it happens every day, but I've seen it. So obviously, police do need to be able to conduct their investigations without interference from total strangers. And the question is someone filming from 25 feet away interfering? Well, Indiana says no. 24 feet, they say yes. I'm not sure that's the line. But there has to be a line, otherwise they can stand in the middle here. And that's a problem. So somewhere between 0 and 25 is I believe, the correct answer. I don't think that 25 is necessary, but we'll see what happens. Now, the interesting thing is that they said the ACLU has already filed an action on this. And the question I have is, did they wait till there was actually somebody arrested saying we think the law simply being on the books is incorrect? And if that's what they did, I'm a little disappointed, because when you look at a law in a total vacuum as a theoretical, it's a lot harder to determine what is good or not good about it. And so I'd much rather see them handle a case like this where they can give some examples and say, well, she's standing here and they said it was okay, and she's standing over here by an ambulance. And they said that she can't stand by the ambulance, which, doesn't sound right either. It sounds like everybody misunderstood the law there. That might be a better one for them to handle, but I don't know. I'm not going to tell them how to do their jobs. So as it is right now, it looks like there's a woman who is in a position to fight this law if she wants to. And then, of course, if she has to, she could take it up on appeal. We'll see about that. As is right now, a woman from Indiana has been arrested under Indiana's new 25-foot police encroachment law, according to Fox59.com. That's by Joe Schroeder. And by the way, Ted sent me notes to Steve. Did you cover this already? After a while, they all blend together, referring to all my videos. Dude, you've got no idea. You think they blend together for you. They blend together for me. I've done something like 5,000 videos now. I have no idea how many times I've talked about this. I have talked about this, but not Indiana, but I have talked about it before. So there you go. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. The only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary.